This video is gonna be based on the movies that I watched from the year 2017. Obviously, I didn't watch every movie, so this is gonna be based on the ones I watched, and from those I picked the top 5, the 5 that I like the most. But before I get to the top 5 for me for the year 2017, I'm gonna mention 3 honorable mentions, which are movies that I found pretty good, but I didn't think that they were strong enough to be a top 5 for the whole year, even though I like them. So I'm gonna begin with these honorable mentions. I ordered them in the same order in which I find them best. So Justice League is the best one of the 3 honorable mentions. I think it was a pretty good superhero movie. They did a good movie, but the reason why I don't put it in the top 5 is that I was judging it a lot based on the anime series, the cartoons from 10 years ago or 15 years ago. And those cartoons were really good. The Justice League cartoons had really good writing, well-developed characters. They were really, really good. Some of the episodes were pretty epic. I obviously didn't watch all of them. Back then, I think I was 13 or 14. But I watched many of them, and they were very well done. So when I went into this movie, obviously, I was judging it based on those cartoons, which is what this movie is supposed to be based on. And it was a good movie, but it didn't reach the level of that show. And because of that, I decided to put it as an honorable mention. If you like superhero movies, you're gonna like it. If you want a sequel to Wonder Woman, this is, in a way, it can be considered sort of a sequel because her character is there, and part of what happens takes place in the Iceland, from where she's from. So it will be a good movie for you. But I think there are others that were even better. So, okay, that's the number 1 of my honorable mentions. The number 2 is Blade Runner 2049. First of all, I'm gonna tell you why I don't put it in my top 5. The movie was really slow. It could have been done in less than 2 hours. It was a good movie. I really liked the science fiction plot that it had. I liked, what they did with the story, but they did it in a way that felt very slow. So I can see why many people will get bored with it. There were points when I felt like if this doesn't pick up speed, if I was watching it in the theater, I would have fallen asleep. I rented that one. I didn't see that one in the theater. I rented it. So the ending, I think, could have been much better. But other than that, I did like the science fiction plot that it had. I think it was a good plot. Could it have been done better? Yes, I'm sure it could have been done better. But it was good. I liked it. So at the end, I wasn't, disappointed or anything like that. So I put that one at number 2. And then comes the one that is, the least good of the honorable mentions, which is Geostorm. Geostorm, at first, it might seem like it's gonna be one of those disaster movies that is like all the others. And it also seems like it's gonna be one of those movies where the protagonist is this cocky guy that is always, putting himself first and all that. When I saw that beginning, I didn't like it. I didn't think it was gonna be good. But I watched the whole thing, I watched the whole movie. And by the end, I liked it. Because I saw something different developing. At the end, I don't really think that this Geostorm movie is a disaster movie. It really was sort of like a part drama and part science fiction. The kind of science fiction that involves satellites and maybe even computer science, programming, that kind of thing. So in reality, the disaster part took like the back position, like a back spot in the movie. It wasn't mainly a disaster movie, even though it felt like it was going to be at first. If it had been a disaster movie, it definitely wasn't anywhere near as good as The Day After Tomorrow. But I don't think this was a disaster movie. I think it was more science fiction. And I liked it. At the end, I think that the plot, what happened with the two brothers from the beginning till the end of the movie, I really liked what happened with the two brothers, especially towards the end. And that was when I decided that, this movie is one of the 10 movies that I enjoyed the most during this year. Not in the top 5, but I would put it, maybe number 10, number 9. In this video is number 8. And yes, I do recommend it to people that like this kind of, half science fiction plot, half drama kind of thing. Okay, and that's it for the honorable mentions. Now I'm gonna move on to the main deal. The main deal is going to be the 5 movies that I enjoyed the most from 2017. So I'm gonna go backwards, begin with number 5, and I'm gonna end with my favorite movie of the whole year, which is also one of my top 10 movies of all time, because it's really good, but you'll see when I get there. So number 5. Number 5 is Disney's Beauty and the Beast. This shouldn't surprise anyone, because this is a classic. It was almost a perfect copy of the original, but with people, act out by people. It was the same thing as the original, pretty much. And that's why it is a good movie, because the original was a really good animated film. This one, I do not think that it is better than the original. Actually, I think the original might even be a little bit better than this one. So what I believe is that if you never watched the original, which, you have been living under a rock if you have never watched the original Disney Beauty and the Beast, but if you never did, you will love this movie. It's a pretty good movie. If you watch the original like I did, and you're judging it based on that, then I think it's good. It's almost a perfect copy of it, but it's not the best of the best in that case, if you're judging it like that. So it's a good, love movie. So anyone that likes romantic stuff is gonna like this. And my main genres might be science fiction and adventure, but I do like to put some romantic touch in some of my stories whenever I can. So that's why I like these kind of movies as well. Okay, so let's go to number 4. Number 4 is Wonder Woman. This shouldn't surprise anyone. It was a pretty good movie, actually. I went in there thinking or hoping that it was going to be better than Captain America 3, the Civil War movie, and better than Captain America 2 even, the second one, the Winter Soldier movie. And I think it was. I think it was. It was a pretty good movie. I like Greek mythology. So obviously having this background story of Greek mythology was something that made me enjoy the movie pretty much. I don't like World War II movies, but in this one, it didn't feel like the whole movie was about that. So even though the movie had a part that was a lot about the war setting, I don't think it got in the way of the character. By the end, I don't even think that this movie needed the final battle at the end to be a pretty good superhero movie. I liked a lot of what they did throughout the whole movie. I'm not going to spoil anything, because I think this is definitely worth watching without any spoilers. I think it's definitely one of the best movies of the year. And it's not perfect. If I wanted to critique the movie looking for things that it could have done better, I would find many of them. But that's not the point. The point is that it was entertaining. And the point is that I think it did deliver in giving us a superhero movie with a woman as a protagonist. It did a pretty good job. If you haven't watched it, I definitely recommend it. So this is number 4. Number 3. You're not going to be surprised by number 3 either. Another superhero movie. And this is the superhero movie that I think was the best one the whole year. It was the one that I enjoyed the most, at least. So number 3 is Thor, Ragnarok. This movie, when I went there, I was thinking that it was going to be difficult for them to make a third Thor movie that would surpass the first 2. At the end, I wouldn't say that this one surpassed the first 2, but it managed to do something that was already pretty challenging, which was making a sequel that was at least as good as the first two Thor movies, which in my opinion were good movies. So this one, number one thing for this movie, wonderful villain. The villain was acted out perfectly. That villain in this movie is exactly the kind of villain that I like from our stories. Well thought out. They really feel powerful. They deliver. But by the end of the movie, even though you obviously want the villain to lose, you have to admit that the villain played a great role. And that was how I felt in this movie. I also felt that, removing the hammer from Thor was a fantastic idea, because it added a lot of character development to the character. It showed us that this character is more than just a hammer. I think it was a great way to, open space in this movie to develop the protagonist. Which by now we probably expected that there was nothing else to develop about the guy, but we were wrong. In this movie they developed the character even more by making him lose the hammer, which ended up being a great idea. And other than that, the action was good. It was entertaining from start to finish. I enjoyed it. It had several good moments that I liked. It also had jokes that I didn't like. The jokes, the jokes in these Disney made movies, I don't know. They don't make me laugh. I don't think they're good at making great jokes. And they keep putting jokes on the movies, but thankfully, the ones in this movie were not that bad. It's not like the ones in Guardians of the Galaxy 2, which were terrible. By the way, I think Guardians of the Galaxy 2 was the worst movie of 2017. Even worse than The Last Jedi. I'm not going to waste time talking about those. I'm just letting you know, so that you see how I think about all these movies from the year. So I really enjoyed this one. This one was great. I watched it twice. I think that most of the others I only watched them once. This one I watched it twice. Both of them at theaters. So I enjoyed it, obviously. Let's move on. Number 2. Now we're getting to the really interesting stuff. The deep stuff. So number 2. War for the Planet of the Apes. This movie is the kind of science fiction that I call smart science fiction. And it's also, something different. Because when we think science fiction, almost all the time we think, it's going to be a movie about space. It's going to be a movie with ships or, something going on outside the Earth. And we tend to forget that there's a lot of really good science fiction material and topics that take place here, that happen right here. You don't need to exit the Earth to get a lot of ideas for really good science fiction movies that are completely different than the usual space plot. This is the case with this trilogy. This is the third one in the Planet of the Apes trilogy. All 3 of them are great movies. I enjoy all 3 of them. They were really good. I think the second one is the best one, but this third movie came very, very close to the second one. And it's, in many ways, it's also like a psychological thriller and like a drama. There are many things mixed in there, and it feels like a small plot, a plot that makes you think about what it means to be intelligent, what it means to be an advanced species, what it means to be many things, what it means to be human even. And it was a movie, one of these movies that when it gets to the end, it's not the ultra happy ending or anything like that, but you finish very satisfied because it delivers. It gave you a story that was thoughtful and that felt like something different. It felt above average in substance. It's the kind of story, of science fiction story, that makes you think, and I love that. I'm definitely going to do that in the ones I'm going to do. So, I'm not going to say any spoiler. All I'm going to say is that if you haven't watched this trilogy, Planet of the Apes trilogy, make sure that you watch them. I think the second and this third one are the best movies in the trilogy, but the first one was also good. So I recommend all 3 of them. Um, okay, so this was a number 2. So take a guess at what the number 1 might be. If you haven't watched the movie, you might not know. But if you watch the movie, you're not going to be surprised at this either. This is the movie that should have been winning Oscars left and right in the Oscar ceremony of 2018. And I think it didn't get any. No, it didn't get any. So let's talk about it here then. My number 1 for 2017 is The Greatest Showman. This movie really surprised me because, number 1, I don't love musicals. I am not a fan of musicals. Even the Disney musicals, the classics, when it got to the musical parts, I didn't dislike those parts, but I felt like it was put on pause. I felt like, it was just an extra there. So I'm not a fan of the musicals, obviously. Even when we talk about the good ones, even those, I'm not a big fan of that. But in this movie, I think that the songs were perfect. They were a perfect fit with the story. They didn't put the advancement of the plot wasn't put on pause when they were singing. On the contrary, they continued going forward. This movie is really hard for me to try to find something to go against it. Everything that I can say about it, I feel is positive. The acting was wonderful. His name, I think it is Hugh Jackman. He did a wonderful job in this movie. I'm guessing he was really happy of having this role, which is something different from Wolverine at last. And he did wonderfully. He deserved to get awards for that. The other people also did really good acting. He wasn't the only one. All of them did wonderful acting. The story, it was a drama. My favorite kind of thing is science fiction adventure with action. This was nothing like that, but I still thought that the story was very good because it does deliver life lessons, which is something that I love as well. A story that by the time you reach the end, you can say, this shows me such and such lesson for life. So this did that. Everything, the whole thing. It was, I think, 1 hour and a half. The time was perfect. Most movies nowadays are 2 hours and they waste a lot of time. This one didn't waste any time. I think, to put it simple, by the time you reach the end, which one of all these movies that I've been talking about, by the time I reached their end after watching them for the first time, which one gave me the most joy? Which one made me feel, glad about having watched it? The one that achieved that at the highest level was this movie, The Greatest Showman. And I think it was really a great name because the movie felt like a show, a very well done show. And it was a movie for everyone. It wasn't a movie just for adults or for kids. It was for everyone. I'm going to avoid any spoiler. So if you haven't watched it, I definitely recommend that you rent it. I'm not sure if it is still in theaters. It probably isn't. But you can rent it. Though I wouldn't be surprised if it sells out or you have to wait like 3 months to get it from Netflix or something like that. Because it was really good. So obviously the people that watched it and enjoyed it are going to want to watch it again. I even bought the DVD, the Blu-ray DVD. So I will definitely watch it again. So yeah, this was my favorite movie from 2017. I do think it's one of my favorite movies of all time. Not top three, but all time for me, maybe number 5. Maybe even number 4. I'm not sure. I need to, think back because there are many movies that I have enjoyed very much. Like the Count of Monte Cristo. I think it was the 2003 version. That movie was magnificent. So just to give you an idea, I put this one in that kind of league. It's a league of movies that by the time they end, they leave you really satisfied. You're glad that you watched that. And I think that's, at the end of the day, that's the purpose of entertainment. The purpose of entertainment. Doesn't matter if it's a movie, if it's a video game, if it is a book or a TV series, whatever it is. Even a comedian talking on stage. The purpose of entertainment is to give those sorts of amazing experiences to people. So yeah, when any media of entertainment, game, book, or even a movie like this one manages to do that, not only do I love it, but I think that such a thing deserves to win awards or to at least get praise. This one didn't win awards, but at least I'm gonna praise it a little bit here. I think many other people are gonna praise it because it's a great film, and I just recommend you watch it. But not only this one, I recommend you watch all the films that I mentioned in this list, especially the top 5. And I hope we might have a different taste, but yeah, I hope you enjoyed these movies like I did. There are many movies that I didn't watch, but among the ones I watched, I definitely recommend these ones that I mentioned here. So just have fun with them if you haven't watched them. Put them in a queue so you can rent them and you can get the experience from knowing about these movies.